just to say, in light of what I've just talked about, my sermon title this morning is All Hands on Deck. Now, I wonder what he might be preaching about with a message like that. I wonder if you could work it out. This morning, I want to bring to you in the idea, not just the idea, but the knowledge, the ways of God, that God is into more. Because you can do more with more. Basic logic. So if I had $1,000, and I wanted to give away $100 to a range of people, I had this thing that I said, if I could just give $100 to a whole heap of people to make a difference to their budget, particularly around food in this time with COVID and whatever else, if I had $1,000 to do that, I can help all of about 10 people. If I had $10,000, I hope you're doing the math already. And I still wanted to do that and go, I wanted to help, as many people as I can, but the most I can give is, I think, $100 a week would help. If I had $10,000, I could help 100 people a week. So 100 people versus 10, who's worked out that that's more? $10,000 is more than $1,000. Have you worked that one out as well? You can do more with more. I'll never forget when in the first early years of starting this church. I can remember there was one Connect group that Sharon and I ran. It got to the point where it had approximately 70 people in it. I can remember nights in our home of just packing out our house with everyone who was part of the church at that time. And in that stage, with 70 people, Sharon and I could adequately kind of pastor that many people together. We're now a church of somewhere in the range of 300 plus people who call this place home. We now have 17 Connect groups actually up and running rather than just one. And the fact is that the kind of Connect groups that we're now running, because we've got more team, more people willing to step up, more giftings, more abilities, the kind of pastoral care that we've witnessed over these last few years in particular has just escalated the health of our church to the point where here we are post-COVID, and we're actually one of the healthiest churches actually around the area, the region, even beyond. Our consultant continually tells us, in fact, I was just talking to a pastor from Queensland this week who told me of the fact that they're down 30%, and that's the average right around his area and his region. So for us to be a church that's still growing post-COVID, let's take a moment to thank God, shall we? Come on, let's give him praise and go, God, thank you. Thank you for what you're up to. Thank you for what you're doing. So let me show you biblically that God is into more. So take a moment to go into the book of Acts. When God birthed the church, when he started the first church that we're aware of as far as a New Testament congregation, in the book of Acts chapter 2, verse 41, and it says, so those who received his word were baptized, and they were added that day about 3,000 souls. So God starts the church with 3,000 people. Everyone say 3,000. That's a big church. That's not a small church. God immediately is into the idea of expanding, growing, starts with big church. God is into more. Then only a few chapters later on, we see, or actually only a few verses later on, Acts chapter 2 and verse 47. And it says, and the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. So he goes from starting with 3,000, then he goes to adding to their number every day. So now the church is not just one cluster of people, it's now being added to day in, day out. Then God goes to another level. In Acts chapter 6 and verse 7, we read this. And the Lord continued to increase the number of disciples, and the number of disciples multiplied greatly in Jerusalem. And a great many of the priests became obedient to the faith. He starts with a cluster of 3,000. He adds to their number daily, and then he multiplies their number. Everyone say multiply. Now, I'd like to do math. I used to actually like math at school. I'm one of those strange people. And so let's say 3,000 people, he adds to their number daily. So again, let's get to an idea that the church then gets up to 4,000 in the space of maybe about 12 months. He then says not only does he add to their number daily, but he then multiplies their number. Minimum multiplication is 2. Is that correct? If you've worked that much out of math, that minimum multiplication is 2, not 1. Sorry, if we're dealing in whole numbers. Dan's over there with some technicalities. And I just went, well, true, you could go 1.1, you can multiply by 1.2. But if we're going to multiply by at least the minimum of 2, you've got already to 4,000 to an 8,000 person church. And then if the minimum multiplication over that was 3, you've gone from 4,000 to 4,000 to 12,000 people. Did I get that right, Dave? Done my maths okay? So if that multiplication worked out for us as a church of approximately 300 people, and if God was then to multiply our number, not just add to our number daily, let's say he does that over a space of 12 months, we'd be a church of people of 900 people in 12 months. It starts to spin you out when you actually go, if God's plan is more. Everyone say God's plan is more. It's not just about growing a big church, it's about reaching people. It's not just about numbers and saying the numbers of size, but every number is a person. And I hate even to put it like that. I hate to even say a number is a person because of what we do that with all sorts of our systems and things we're involved in. But every bit of increase is another life. It's another life of eternity with Christ. God is into more. Turn your neighbor and say, God is into more. And again, even it's not just the more, it's actually a gathering of people to a vision of making healthy disciples. We're not just building numbers again for the sake of wanting to see increase. We're wanting to build a healthy church that makes disciples. A healthy church of making disciples is a place of agreement. It's an agreement that the Bible is the foundation for our faith. It's a place where we agree that there is no other way to heaven than but by Jesus Christ. It's a place where we agree that the church is his idea and strategy and that he will build his church. And it's an agreement that we together in our coming together, that in our growth, that we commit to the vision of the building of a healthy, growing church that sees lives transformed and Jesus Christ glorified. If you can be in agreement with me and all that, please say amen. Amen. Very good. So, all hands on deck. Let's rise and build. There's a piece of history in the Bible about a gentleman by the name of Nehemiah. Nehemiah lives in a time where things have gone very poorly for the nation of Israel. For those, if you're not familiar with Israel, is kind of like the historical church. They were like God's people in the Old Testament. And the Israelites, they've messed up. They've done a lot of things wrong. They've walked away from God. They haven't walked his life at all. In fact, they've completely gone in the opposite direction. And so it's to the point where their protection, so to speak, from God has disappeared. They're in exile. Their homeland has been destroyed, and many of them taken into captive. A handful of people have stayed behind, and a temple has been rebuilt, but that's about all. Nehemiah in this foreign land has this moment where he hears about his homeland. His brother, it says, actually comes from his homeland. He arrives and he begins to chat with Nehemiah, and Nehemiah asks him about how all the people are going that are back in their homeland in Israel. And his brother begins to convey the story that the walls that were once large, that once surrounded the nation of Israel, that surrounded its city, Jerusalem, that the walls are torn down. The walls are in shambles. That the gates have been set on fire and are no longer there. And for Nehemiah is struck by this. He is struck by the fact of his homeland, that it's no longer thriving, that it's no longer prospering. And Nehemiah feels a call and gets so passionate about it that he prays and gets on a mission to go home and basically to restore the land of Israel, to restore the city of Jerusalem, to restore the walls of Jerusalem. He gets favor from his king to go on a mission, to go on a rescue mission, to go on a restoration mission, to go on a mission to go back to his homeland. And in the mission of going back to his homeland, he arrives, and it says in his arrival, he takes a few days to survey the land. And then in Nehemiah chapter 2 and verse 17, it says that Nehemiah says, he goes to his people after having been on a mission around and around and around. He comes back to them, and then I said to them, he says, You see the bad situation that we're in. How Jerusalem is desolate and lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come and let us rebuild. Everyone say rebuild. Come and let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem so that we will no longer be a disgrace. I think one of the hardest things about being someone in particular I've grown up in church. I've grown up with the fire of this faith pretty much all my life. And one of the hardest things in watching the church in this era is to see buildings that were once full and thriving, to see them empty, to see them no longer being used as churches. Because each one of them in some ways is like a testament of failure. That somehow the church could not stay relevant. Of all the things of the passion of what we do here is to take the Word of God, not change its message, but ensure that it's relevant to everyday life. To ensure that it's relevant to your situations at home. To ensure it's relevant to the situations of you going into your workplace. To ensure it's relevant to the relationships that you have with those that are around you. To ensure that it's relevant to your heartbeat to follow the purpose and will of God for your life. And what a privilege that we now stand in a moment where we get to take one of those buildings. That we get to take one of those places and we get to restore it. We get to restore it to being a place that still testifies to this city. The church is just as relevant today as it was 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. The church is still relevant. And it's interesting to note the response of the people who had been living in this situation with their walls having been down, with their walls having been burned, with their enemies basically just... See, the thing about the walls of a city and why they felt the disgrace was because the walls of a city meant we were protected. The walls of a city meant we know how to be united as a people to build something that actually reflects something to our neighbours, that we are strong. And so to see those walls down, not just a testament of disgrace to Nehemiah, but to everyone who lived in that land. And so when they hear a man like Nehemiah, when they hear him arrive and tell his story, well, Nehemiah chapter 2 and verse 18, listen to their response. It says, "Then I, Nehemiah, told them how the hand of my God had been favorable to me, and also about the words that the king had spoken to me. And they said, 'Let us rise up and build.' So they thoroughly supported the work." I remember when we first started this church in its early stages. In fact, it might have been about our second year in. And we started to declare to our church, that small as it was back then, one day we see the day when we will have a building. One day, even though right now we were in a high school, we see the day where we will own land in this city. And I love how we brought that vision year after year after year. And how so many of us here, even today, who've given to that building, Vision Builders, Building Fund, over and over again. To the point where it's set us up. It's moved us to the point where now we are literally, well, might not be rise and build, but rise and restore. Yes. That we get to rise and restore something that had been lost to the purposes of God. But because of the way that we worked together, the way that we gave together, the way that we, this body of people, over the years and how we have given together has put us into the position where now again, obviously, we are able to take a building that was lost to restore it to its purposes, because you can do more with, because of, again, our working together, we have moved into this incredible position because, well, we believe all hands on deck. But as you heard me say before, there is still more to do. Even though, yes, we've taken over this building in the sense that we are its owners, to get it ready for us to all meet in it, there is still, lots more to do. And I want to create today a sense that regardless of what you feel you can physically do in the sense of your skills or whatever else, I want us to have a sense that, again, that all of us can be involved. The interesting thing for Nehemiah when he goes to his people and they all get on board with this mission to rebuild the wall. Well, listen to the variety of people. Nehemiah chapter 3, it begins to go through this massive list of people who are all part of the tribe of Israel who rose to help build the wall. So chapter 3, verse 1, it says, Then Eliashib the high priest and the other high priests started to rebuild the sheep gate. They dedicated it and set up its doors, building the wall and the tower as far as 100, which they dedicated, and the tower of Hananel. So number one, all the priests, all the leaders got involved. Verse 8, next was Uzziah, son of Hariah, a goldsmith by trade, who also worked on the wall. Beyond him was Hananiah, a manufacturer of perfumes. They left out a section of Jerusalem as they built the broad wall. So basically we've got a guy who deals in jewelry and a guy who deals in nice smelly stuff, yet they still found a way to get involved. Let's face it, for the guy who's dealing with perfumes, I'm pretty sure he didn't really have a skill that could relate to building of a wall. But yet at the same time, it's not about whether you've got the specific skills, but that everyone can find a way to be involved. If a perfume maker who deals with oils can find a way to help build a brick wall, stone wall, there's got to be a way every one of us can be involved. Verse 12, Shallum, son of Halashah, and his daughters repaired the next section. He was the leader of the half of the district of Jerusalem. I love how inclusive, again, the work of God is. It's not supposed to be one or the other, church, hey? It's not supposed to be men or women. It's supposed to be the together of us working together. We have all together work to make this thing work. Verse 20, next to him was Barak, son of Zabal, who zealously repaired an additional section from the angle to the door to the house of Eliashib, the high priest. And look, there will be those who do more than others. There will be those who seem to work harder than others. Can we just establish right now, that's okay. And if you do hear of someone doing more than someone else, again, let's not be nitpicky or whatever else. Let's admire them for it. I should probably take a moment to thank Anita Handley in particular. Did anyone see the photo that was up on there that had the feet hanging over the edge of the thing? Saw the windows? Abby, are you able to grab that? I don't reckon you're able to grab that photo real quick. Anita Handley, and I know she's one of many again who have been there day in, day out. But I want to thank her again for her braveness to go up on the scaffolding, as you can see from that photo, with her feet hanging down and seeing the thing. Just there day in, day out to help make things work. Thank you. Can we all give Anita Handley a huge round of applause and say thank you? It says they go on to build the wall in 52 days. By all counts of those watching this wall being built, this stone wall that completely surrounds a city, it's so hard to imagine in not being in that context. But a wall that completely surrounds this city, they rebuilt it in 52 days. And by all counts, it's considered to be a miracle. A miracle to the point that its speed has an impact on the surrounding nations. In Nehemiah chapter 6 and verse 16, and it says, And when all our enemies heard about it, and all the Gentile nations around us saw it, they lost their confidence, for they recognized that this work had been accomplished with the help of our God. I wonder what our city's going to recognize about us retaking a building for Christ. I wonder what our city's going to recognize about us. That as we, through good stewardship, spend as little as, and that's why again I want to take a moment to thank you so much for all the work that you have done. For those who have already been involved and those yet to be involved. If we were to pay for the amount of work that has been done by volunteers over these last few weeks and the weeks to come, let's just say it's probably not in the budget. But because of your incredible work and the way that we're working together, I had to keep reminded by how long it's been that we've actually had the building for. I keep thinking like it's 4, 5, 6 weeks, and they tell me, Brian, it's only 2. Well, now it's actually 3. the amount of work that has been done in such a short period of time, I get blown away. But again, it's because of a philosophy of people who says we're in. All hands on deck. Let us rise and build, or as I said in our case, let us rise and restore. Can I have the band come up the front, please? All hands on deck. Let me change gears for a moment. It's not just all hands on deck for the sake of building a building, or restoring a building, I should say. It's all hands on deck because there is a great commission. There is something greater at stake in our ability of working together. There is something greater at stake when we have a mentality, an attitude that says all hands on deck. Matthew chapter 28, the Great Commission to not just, again, a handful of people, but to every one of us is simply this. Go, therefore, make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you to the ends of the age. This week, the DCLA. The DCLA is the ministers, what we would refer to as the Ministers Fraternal. It's the Christian leaders of the majority of our churches here in our city. We get together weekly, and no less than once a month in particular, for a meeting where we discuss things that are a bit deeper level, shall we say, of our working together. And in our meeting together this week, we were confronted by the mental health issue that's facing Tasmania. There are reports coming out that is stating that because of COVID, not just the threat of the disease, but the way it's changed our economy, the way it's changed our work life, the way it's changed rent prices, house prices. There are those who are truly doing it tough who before were okay. And because of the change of the work market and job industry, it's meant that people who were doing okay before are now not so okay. And so unfortunately, there's reports to the point of saying that mental health in Tasmania, we are nearly the worst state, if not the worst state, in regard to people falling into mental health conditions. Do you know, and one of the greatest ways forward that all of us talked about to be able to help anybody in this situation is to form relationship and to bring them into healthy communities. That this is how we, the church, play our part. That we, in our working together, all hands on deck. But yet, in the midst of that, even as individuals, that where possible, we make relationship. We connect. We share faith with an invitation to a healthy community, the local church. Pastor Sean last week when he was here, he spoke from Acts chapter 2:42, and I want to share it again just for a moment. Just to look at what I believe it says to us about, again, how we can help in this situation in our community. Acts chapter 2:42 onward says this, and they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, the fellowship of the breaking of bread and prayers. And awe came upon every soul, and many signs and wonders were being done through the apostles. And all who believed were together. Everyone say together. And had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. And day by day, attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. It's amazing the impact of a healthy church in the favor it wins with its community. But let me make note of what I believe is highlighted in this scripture. That there is support in when people come together. Everyone say together. There is the ability to see need and share when people are together. It's difficult to see the needs of others. It's difficult to see what's happening in another person's world unless, again, there is that ability to come together. It's one of the reasons why we highlight connect groups so much here in our church. Because, again, here on Sundays, in some ways, you can hide a little bit. But when it comes to connect groups, we see each other in a way that we see beyond masks, we see beyond veils, we see to the heart, we see to the need. Now, let me make a note, though, about sharing needs, meeting needs. It's just a simple wisdom thing when it comes to finance. And as much as it says that they all who believed had together and had all things in common, it says, and they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. That doesn't mean you sell everything you have to meet needs, because then you become needy. Make sense? We live in a world where sometimes for the sake of others, we put ourselves in a spot of desperation. And then we become the ones needy. That's not wisdom. Wisdom is at the point where if you have excess, if you are in a position, Jesus says if you have 2 coats, why have 2? Share with them the one. You've still got one. But help the other who doesn't. When we come together, when we bring people together, when we invite people into community, that's in the place where mental health can be served so well, because it's done in the place of being together. One more time, can everyone say together? I am so thankful for you all, because I've watched the way many of you have done this over and over again. I hear stories amongst our connect groups of people who are in need. Their need is noticed, and you do something about it. Just even specifically in this area of mental health. There are a range of people here who may have had mental health issues, or even right now you are struggling with mental health issues. And I need to make a simple note. When it comes to mental health, just a really simple thing you can do right through this time of the year. I like to diarise it in my calendar that at least once a year as we come into winter. Oh my gosh, has everyone worked out? We're in winter. If you know you're in winter, turn to your brother and go, oh, hey Ben, we're in winter. I am not a medical expert, but I know one thing in particular when it comes to mental health through winter. That if you are not taking vitamins B and D, and you tend to get low in this time of year. If you tend to get low mentally, if you tend to get a little depressed, if you get a little extra down through this time of year, one of the simplest things you can do for yourself is to make sure, again, you're taking vitamins B and D. One of the phenomena of Tassie is that we get less light through this time of year. And the lack of sunlight, again, it's one of the things that impacts our ability to stay up. So again, just a simple little thing, B and D. I have watched the way our connect groups have responded to those with mental health issues. I have watched the way that they have created places of no judgment, of acceptance. I've watched and heard how people have helped them and seen their needs in times where they are low. I've watched our connect groups check in on those who have been struggling. I have watched how our connect groups have ensured to put positive environments around those who are struggling. I have watched how our connect groups have created social occasions and the like to ensure that those in their groups are staying well. Can we take a moment just to kind of congratulate each other, because you're all doing that so well. So could you just for a moment just go, turn the person next to you, go, well done. No, seriously, turn the person next to you, go, well done. The way that you are doing that. Because that makes the most massive difference in seeing people recovered from mental health to doing life well. We can do more with more. We see the church growing. We see the church expanding. We see our ability to help more, to reach more as we are more. And what I ask over these next few weeks is that we would indeed rise and build with all hands on deck. Whether it's praying for those of us who are working down there at the building to be kept safe. There are those who are working at certain heights. Not all of us. I don't like going up high. But there are those of us who do. Pray for those people again that they stay safe. And when you are praying for someone, when you are praying for the workers, can I encourage you to do something very simple? Jump onto the C3 Devonport home group and actually just make a note. Hey everybody, I want to let you know I'm praying for you right now. That we can acknowledge the way that you've been involved. That we can acknowledge the fact that we know someone is indeed praying for us. Can I ask you also to be involved in the sense that if you're someone who likes to cook, the food over the last few weeks has been so good. I make the terrible mistake though that of getting there at 3:30 and everyone's eaten all the good food already. So if you're someone who's loves to cook, please know that your cooking is making a wonderful difference. It's really contributing to the fact of budgets. It's contributing to the fact of our volunteers feeling cared for, well loved upon. And maybe over this week, if you could help out with a paint roller, whether it's sanding a piece of timber, whether it's someone sawing a piece of timber, whether it's someone carrying a whole heap of carpet tiles to a trailer and then over into that next space, whether it's packing up all these chairs that are going to have to be packed up and then transported from one place to the next. Whether it's going to be pulling off timber and then touching all the sound bats and everything with all its fibers and everything that's in behind that. And then suffering a couple of days of being itchy because of the stuff. But over these next 3 weeks, can I ask for all hands on deck? Stay tuned into the C3 Facebook group that again has got the daily updates about what is needed. See if you can set some time aside, whether it's day off work or just to make sure you're there on a Saturday or the long weekend Monday to help out with the working parties. Whether it's on a Monday night or a Thursday night, particularly over these next couple of weeks, there is going to be a multitude of stuff to get done here in this space as much as in the next space. All hands on deck.
So Dan, the last tool that we've got to look at is this one here, which I believe it's a multi-tool because you can use it as a hammer.
Yep.
You can use it for screwing things up.
That makes sense.
And I think you can use it for like measuring and stuff. So we're recording.
Right, yeah, sorry. Yep. Hey,
So
hey church.
That concludes Chris's tool time for now.
Thank you very much.
I can't put it down, but that's all right. Morning, church.
Good morning, church.
How are we doing?
Oh, I'm pretty good, thanks, Chris. How are you?
Pretty good. Hey, guess what?
What?
We're doing the announcements live for the first time in ages.
What?
So if you get everyone in your seats, if you just turn and look to the back of the room now. Nah, I tricked you.
Nah.
Hey.
Yeah.
But
this isn't live.
with the tool thing though,
Yeah.
I just want to say it's been amazing seeing the progress that's been happening with the new
That
building.
is so true, Chris. There has been so much happen over there.
So much happening, and
People have been working tirelessly,
yep,
and it looks incredible.
it's looking fantastic. And even down here, the work has started to decommission this
That's
old
right.
building here. So there's going to be a lot happening over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But we just want to say thank you to everyone who's been involved so far.
Massive thank you. And hey, it is not too late to get involved either.
Yeah.
There is still more stuff to do. So yes, there's been some incredible work done so far, and we can't wait to see even more incredible work happen.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And I may not know my tools or how to use them, but I am glad that there's so many people in the church who do know how to use them.
That's
and
right.
It's all about making the church, building the church together, and it's fantastic. So couple of big weeks, so everyone rest up over the next couple of weeks because it is fantastic. But first, we have some celebrations to do.
Celebrations!
So there are a few birthdays happening this week. So happy birthday to Geordie Stone, Imogen Hanley, Martin Levan, Adam Hanley, and Margie Kelly.
Happy birthday to
Happy
all you
birthday.
guys.
Big round of applause.
Well done. Good stuff. Good stuff.
We got some announcements.
We
What's
do.
happening at Voltage?
Voltage Youth is on tonight. so I was leaving space for the big
Yeah,
cheers,
yeah.
of course, yeah. So Voltage Youth is on tonight in this building, in this space. It is going to be incredible, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. In fact, a little birdie told me that Lauren Wyndon is preaching.
Oh,
that's right. So
that's
you've
gonna be
got to make sure you're
fantastic.
there, be there, or be square, as all the hip kids like to say.
That sounds pretty rad, Dan.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, it's Connect Group Week, so how good is the Bible plan that's been going
so
on?
good.
It's been fantastic.
So
So,
good.
if you're not in a Connect group, then see Pastor Ann, see the service desk, get yourselves in one. But otherwise, have fun at your Connect groups.
That's right.
It's a great place to
Connect.
connect, have some fun, chat about Jesus, chat about life, and just have some people who've always got your back. So it's fantastic
Yeah,
to
it's good.
see.
Awesome.
Now,
Very exciting.
next up, we've got some guest announcers. Ooh. We're just going to pass it over to Pastors Brian and Sharon, who would like to share something with us.
AC3 Church, as we prepare to transition from this building to the next one, we want to take some time and take a moment to actually celebrate what God has done here in this space.
Yeah, so in the middle of June, we want to have a service that's actually fully focused on interviewing people, hearing people's testimonies and stories. So if you've had something really transformed in your life since being part of C3, here in this building in particular over the past 6 years, we would love to hear from you. So you can inbox us, you can call us, you can text us, you can grab us on Sunday, and we want to hear the power of your story and let everyone else share in that.
Our vision is to see the building of a healthy, growing church
Yeah.
that sees lives transformed and Jesus Christ glorified. So we really want to take some time to celebrate the lives that have been transformed here in this space, because that's even how we glorify Him, of giving testimony, of giving story. So again, if you're one of those, if you can give testimony to what God has done, how some part of transformation has taken part of your life while we've been here in this space, again, we'd really appreciate it if you would be willing to help share that story with our congregation in one of the services in the month of June. So again, if you can, as you heard from Sharon, if you can inbox us, connect with us, let us know that you'd like to do exactly that. Email us even your story, and we'll get in touch to work out coordinating making that happen.
But don't wait. Let us know sooner than later would be great, because we want to coordinate it well and give everyone an opportunity to share. So cannot wait to hear from you as we wind up our time in this incredible venue, ready for the exciting new chapter.
It's amazing to
good.
see what God is up to amongst us. God bless church, and we can't wait for June to see you again, to hear your stories, as well as preparing ourselves for moving into the new space God has prepared for us.
Wow.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So,
Very exciting.
as we said, it's a really big couple of weeks coming up with
Yeah.
the church. It's happy times, but it's sad times. So it is bittersweet. This building has been fantastic
Yeah,
to
it
us
has. It's been
the last few years.
really great to be here the last few years.
Yeah.
And just like Pastor Brian and Sharon said, if you've got some stories about how your life's been changed, transformed in this space, hit us up.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic service. It's going to be brilliant over the next couple of weeks. So
That's right.
now, when we're moving, don't worry. I know that a few of you have been concerned that some of the things might be left behind, but we are planning on taking everything. And Dan and I will be taking all of our jokes with us. So
Hey!
don't stress.
See you in the new
will-
building, church.
We will be there. Same old Dan and Chris, same old jokes. You'll love it. So have a great week, everyone.
See yous.
See ya.
Hey, thank you for joining us in the experience that we call C3. Maybe today you've made a decision to follow Christ, to become a believer, to become a Christian. If that's you, we would love it if you would just do one more thing for us before this service is out. And that is to go to www.c3churchdevonport.com/online. It'll be appearing on the screen. If you could go to that link and click the button that says take the next step. We would love it if you would fill out your contact details there, and one of us will be in contact with you, because we would love to pray with you, answer any questions you might have, and to encourage you though in this incredible life-changing decision that we believe is one of the greatest decisions that you can make on this side of heaven.
Yeah, absolutely. And we would love for you to feel like you belong in a place where that's watching us online or in a service. So we would love you to jump on, again, that same website, and you can choose Get Connected, and we will be able to give you some more details on how you feel like you can belong, because we really believe that there's a place for everyone where they fit and where they belong. And maybe you've got any other questions regarding C3, you can find links there where you can send us in your questions and ask for more information.
Even make a prayer request.
Yeah.
Hey, if maybe you're watching here today and you're actually someone who lives within driving distance of Devonport, we would love to invite you to come and actually join us here in our physical location here every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. You are more than welcome to come and connect with us. At this stage, we still do ask you to register your intention to come. It's just what the government is still asking us to do. But we would love to invite you that you might come and experience what we call the C3 tribe, the C3 family. So thank you again for joining with us today.
Yeah,
God bless, and
have
whatever
an
it is that
amazing
you're
week.
doing this week. See you next week.
Awesome. Bye.